Hi everyone, I'm back with another video in preparation for Diablo 4 Season 4. And today I want to talk about how to gear up for your builds. So I've already discussed what will be the new leveling strategies. I have a video on that. But what do you actually do once you hit level 100 and how do you actually get the stuff that you need? Well, compared to how it was before in the game, where you had to find all of the items yourself, you had to go grind those boss ladder bosses, hoping to get those unique items. Now those can be traded, and that actually is a pretty big change in how you want to acquire those coveted items. In particular, some items that are really like required to make a build functional. I guess the biggest example that we have in this game is here in the Werewolf Tornado build, the Tempest Roar. This is like the item that is kind of like intimidating for people that have PTSD from playing a druid back in Season 0, for example. And they could just never find this thing because back then we didn't even have the boss ladder, we didn't have any way to target from this thing, and unique drops were just much more rare in general. So a lot of people just played druids for like dozens or even hundreds of hours, never even getting one of those. Well, these days that's a lot easier because it just drops from Duriel and Andariel, and those bosses are some of the most valuable that you want to farm anyway because of the Uber uniques later. So a lot of people will find those Tempest Roars, and now those can be traded. So that's a pretty big thing and something that I would definitely keep in mind for when the season starts. You might not be the fastest to level to 100, and in that case, well, you can maybe just look for someone who has already been grinding Duriel or Andariel, or just maybe randomly found a Tempest Roar playing another Druid build and they don't need it. So you can give them to your friends, you can find them on the trade sites. So in that case, I'll shout out here to the Crimson Market, my sponsors as well. They are working on updating the website to make sure to accommodate for all these kind of trade scenarios here. They have been doing a lot of work on some new tools that are pretty fancy. But yeah, you can definitely go and just kind of find the uniques that you need. And they don't necessarily have to be very good in some cases. When you're talking about a Tempest Roar, you just need the item. You don't need a good roll of it to make the build functional, but it can suddenly be like a massive boost to how the build actually works and how strong it is. So that is something to keep in mind. In the future, we're not just trading the base items like in the past. Trading has generally been somewhat like of a niche thing, I guess, because of how clunky it is and also kind of how unnecessary with how easy the game was in the past. But in the future, we're going to have trading for both the base items, which, you know, in the past were just those rare items. Now it's going to be legendaries because rares are kind of pointless. So you can trade for like good rolled items, well-rolled items, and you can trade for the uniques. And even on top of that, the legendary aspects. So similar to uniques, you can literally just buy a legendary aspect with like crappy rolls and use that to put in your own codex, because as soon as you salvage an aspect in Season 4, it will go to your codex and you can always imprint that power on every other item in the future with that value that you salvage. So you can kind of build up the entire codex to have all of the best rolls until you have, you know, the perfect gear, and you can always like swap it on the fly for the little cost, I guess. And it's going to be very easy to actually get a build up and running, even if it's your main build, but especially for alts, or maybe you play like another build on the same character or something like that. It's very easy to do that now. On stream, I have been talking about the Tornado Druid being one of the best builds in the game in Season 4 yet again. So Tornado Druid is back at the top basically. And a lot of people tell me that, you know, they are scared of getting the Tempest Roar and these kind of things. And I don't think you really have to. It's going to be way, way easier than in the past. You also have to see that the leveling journey is just like way faster now as well. Like I expect that like record times 1 to 100 are probably going to be in the range of like around 10 hours or so. And even on the more casual end, like 20-30 hours is going to be very, very doable, I believe. So just getting to 100 is not going to be much of a challenge, and the game actually just kind of starts there. And if you are especially not like super speedrunning it on day 1 or day 2 or something, then there will be people that have these leftover Tempest Roars. There will be people that have those leftover Tybalt's Wills and Fractured Winter Glasses and all these kind of big build enabling uniques, and they will just sell them to you. So this is definitely something to keep an eye out for, and something that I would recommend for people that have to find those specific unique items. You might not get them even after like 10 or 20 dual kills, and then you know, farming those materials might become a bit annoying while you're still trying to level up and do all the other things. But if you just get a temper sword when you're like level 70 or 80 or something, you can just blast all the way and you don't have to worry about anything, and you can, you know, just get your wealth later again, and you can, you know, farm those bosses later and these kind of things. One thing to keep in mind though here is that when it comes to trading, you cannot trade enchanted, imprinted, tempered, or masterworked items. I guess that's pretty obvious. Anything that has been like in any way altered by the NPCs in town that consumes some of your resources, those cannot be traded. This is the same as before with like blacksmith upgraded and so on. So nothing new here. However, one thing to keep in mind is that there is actually a way to kind of like break your item. In case you don't know what that is, that's basically means that the item is destroyed. So in the case of tempering, you only have limited attempts of trying to get the stats that you want. And if you don't hit the right stat in those few temper attempts, well, the item is effectively broken. And you have to get another item in order to get the right stats on it. This doesn't really mean that the item will be completely unusable, but you have to replace it at some point, basically, because you might just end up with like a stat that does literally nothing for your build. If you temper like a weapon on the rogue, and you try to get like a chance to cast barrage projectiles twice because you're playing a barrage build, and then you suddenly roll chance to cast penetrating shot twice, well, that doesn't do anything. So in that case, you have to find another bow, for example. So there might be those cases where it might be not such a bad idea to actually kind of just like buy multiple bases that then you want to try to craft on. But on the other hand, I guess especially those coveted, like really well-rolled items, especially with greater affixes, are probably going to be quite costly when we're talking about double or even triple greater affixes of, you know, really good stuff on some of those items. I think those are going to go for a lot, so prepare for that. The point is that you always want to have a backup when it comes to tempering items. So you don't want to just like immediately, for example, salvage your old item, or you want to, you know, not just go all in on like one single attempt, because in some cases, yeah, it might be quite easy to get the temper rolls that you want, but in other cases it's not, and not getting the right thing will just kind of like make the item trash, basically. So this is kind of an important thing here, especially on weapons, especially on rings as well, and amulets, where you can put like certain resource mods that are really important and these kind of things. Some builds just have these requirements of getting like very specific things on their items. For example, here, like this is a Twisting Blades build. If you don't get poison imbuement count as a temper mod, well, the item is going to be basically unusable for you. And there are 3 different options, so you might just not roll the 1 in 3 like 5 times in a row, and that's it. So this is just something to be aware of. In any case, I'm actually quite excited to see how this will play out when the patch actually goes live and a lot of people are blasting the game again, and how the trade will develop. In general, I expect trading to just become much more relevant in the future, simply because it's so much more open now, and we have these options to prepare an entire alt character from scratch, basically, and you don't even have to have played that class. You can just literally get all the aspects, all the uniques and everything from other people. You can get, you know, the right roles. You can go and trade like these greater affix items. I think it's gonna be pretty cool. Whenever you find like a really strong item, you can just give it to someone else, including the legendaries. So that's definitely something I'm looking forward to as well. And let's see how it'll play out. I just wanted to discuss this topic here really quick, simply because this is kind of like a thing that I keep hearing all the time on my stream, and in chats and so on. So the trading is going to be very relevant, and we still don't really have like a good in-game trading system, but we have sites like the Crimson Market, for example, here to help us out with the trades. So at least we got that. And this is also it for this video here, so hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for a lot more stuff coming up for Season 4. I have a lot of build guides planned, boss guides, a bunch of other stuff. So hope you enjoyed this one, and see you guys next time.